During the opening game of NFL Week 3, on Thursday Night Football, the Carolina Panthers beat the Houston Texans 24-9. And look, it was really not the best primetime game we've had all year. It was fine. It was a decent football game. Houston lost their starting quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, last week to an injury. So they played rookie quarterback Davis Mills. And honestly, all things considered, shout out to Davis Mills. He played pretty well. Good, solid rookie performance. Showed a lot of promise, I thought. Threw a good ball and made some good decisions. And what was really more impressive is he didn't make any big, costly, horrible decisions. Like, he was a guy who didn't do anything to cost his team the game, which is very impressive for a rookie quarterback. And I want to see Davis Mills play more football. I think it'd be fun. It's fun to evaluate young guys like him. And I thought, honestly, like, he could be a NFL starting quarterback. Like, he really did a decent enough job to show some promise. Now, we will talk about Sam Darnold in just a moment. But first, I got to say this, because I love Carolina. And if I had to pick a favorite team, it would probably be the Carolina Panthers. And the reason, it's not because I like the team. I like the people there. I really like their owner, David Tepper. He's a dude who, his approach is great. He cares. He wants to win. He lets football people make football decisions. He's also very happy to pour lots of money into the organization because he wants to win. I love their coach, Matt Rule. He's a guy who's very wise and has a great approach to the way he cares for players and is very open to new ideas. Then you have the great offensive coordinator, Joe Brady's a stud. He's really, really smart. Sam Darnold's a good story. Like, the people in Carolina, to me, I find very, very compelling. And I love what the Carolina Panthers have going on. However, I know they're 3-0, but it's a 3-0 where they played two rookie quarterbacks in 3 games. They played Zach Wilson week 1 and Davis Mills week 3. I mean, and they beat Jameis Winston in between. Nothing against Jameis. I thought Jameis was not the full problem last week. I'll get into that later in the show. But I want to just slow down expectations a little bit in Carolina. They're winning. They're turning things around. I think the back half of their year has got a tougher schedule than the early part of their year. And I think a 5-3 or a 6-2 start is very realistic for Carolina. Next week they play at Dallas. I would be shocked if Carolina beat Dallas on the road against Dak Prescott, an incredible young quarterback. Week 5 they play Philly, then Minnesota. Week 6, week 7 at the Giants. Week 8 at Atlanta. Like, those are some winnable games, and I think that a 5-3 or 6-2 start after the first 8 games is a very realistic idea. But let's, like, the 3-0 thing, undefeated, like, undefeated, like, let's slow down. They beat the Saints, which was a surprise. They drubbed them. They beat the crap out of them. But, they beat 2 rookie quarterbacks in 3 weeks. Let's slow down a little bit on how amazing the Carolina Panthers are. And just remember, 2 of their wins were against some of the worst teams in the entire NFL. Now, also during this game, Carolina lost 2 of their best players, young first-round pick, a corner. J.C. Horn broke his foot. Doesn't appear like that's going to be a season-ending injury. He might come back later in the year, December, January, something like that. But he's out for a while. And then star running back, let's be clear, Christian McCaffrey, hurt his hamstring. Officially, it's a strained hamstring. What that means to me is I think he's going to be back next week, the week after next. He's not going to be gone for a long time. Part of me wonders, because the Carolina Panthers are so forward-thinking and very, very cautious with the way they treat their stud running back Christian McCaffrey, I wonder if they said, like, hey, we're playing Houston. They're not a great football team. We think we can win this game. We're not going to put our best player in a tough spot in a game that we think we can win anyway. Why risk your best player like that? I look at the way that Christian McCaffrey ran off the field. He looked fine. I don't know. I just think a lot of this move was less that McCaffrey was really badly injured and more that the Carolina Panthers are very, very cautious with how they treat them, and they're not going to put him in any situation to get hurt again. And also, again, I think they realized we're playing Houston. Like, if we need Christian McCaffrey to beat Houston, we probably have bigger problems. Now, Sam Darnold, the Panthers quarterback, looked really good. And I love saying this. I do not often brag. However, look, I called this. I told everyone that this was going to happen. In fact, I even predicted that Sam Darnold would go to the Panthers. And it's a perfect fit. Him with the Panthers, who needed a young quarterback, and Joe Brady, the way they all work together, it's really great. Sam Darnold was 23 for 34 passing with 304 yards. He also ran for 2 touchdowns, 1 on a quarterback sneak, 1 on a keeper with his own read. And we are finally seeing what Sam Darnold is capable of when he gets good coaching. And I just yes, I love seeing it. For years, I remember talking about how frustrating I was watching Sam Darnold in New York, getting just like all this talk about how bad he was. He's awful. He can't do anything. And I'm like, look, guys, it's the team around him. It's not all Sam's fault. And now we're finally seeing how good Sam Darnold can be. And what's interesting, like another crazy thought I have is that I think Sam actually in the last couple of weeks has even missed a couple opportunities where, there's one play against Houston where he had Dan Arnold running wide open down the seam, didn't see him open, didn't throw him the ball. And then later he slightly overthrew DJ Moore on a deep ball. And then last week there was a play, I believe it was on third down, where Christian McCaffrey's open in the flat. Sam Darnold didn't look at it long enough, didn't wait till he came open, came off too early, didn't see the guy open for a first down. Little things like that. Like Sam Darnold is a young quarterback. And my take on all that is that he's a new quarterback in a new system. It's okay to miss a couple plays. And eventually, like that excuse is going to wear off as he gets older and more mature. And we would expect Dak Prescott or Tom Brady or, the best quarterbacks in the NFL to, and Dak Prescott, people think I hate on Dak. Like, I think Dak's great. But people, when you're an established quarterback, you cannot make those mistakes. However, again, even Aaron Rodgers makes a play occasionally where you're like, hey, that's a weird throw. He had a play on Monday Night Football where he had a touchdown and he threw it behind a guy on a slant. Like even Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady make mistakes and have bad plays occasionally. But I want to see Sam clean up some of those mistakes and play even better moving forward. Now, what stands out most when you watch the Carolina Panthers offense, though, is just how many opportunities that Sam Darnold has. I mean, he has people running open everywhere. It's unbelievable. Like, watching Carolina is the contrast between the Jets and Carolina is unbelievable for Sam Darnold. Like, with the Jets, I felt every game there was no one open, no opportunities. Now he has so many opportunities, he can't even make all of them. The play calling in Carolina is unbelievable and has to get a lot of credit. The Panthers offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, is actually, I think somehow, like we're already talking about him getting a head coaching job. In my mind, even still, he's not getting the respect he deserves. He's a wizard. The way he calls plays, the way he creates matchups, he's so good at making the perfect play call, creating a good matchup, getting people open, putting his players in the best position to be successful. Like Sam Darnold has receivers open all over the field all game long. And a good coach, their job is to put their players in their best position to do well and be successful. Joe Brady does that every single week. And if I were Carolina, I would already start feeling the pressure to give Joe Brady a big extension, say, hey, we're going to pay you. We're going to make you the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL to keep you here because we know that you are a key part of developing our young quarterback, Sam Darnold. Like, if I'm Carolina, I'm like, I'm not screwing around. I want to keep Joe Brady around as long as I possibly can. Let's pay him like a head coach if that's what it takes to keep him here. I remember, Brent Venables, the defensive coordinator at Clemson, gets paid like a head coach. He's like the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football. I would take the same approach with Sam Darnold, or with Joe Brady, excuse me. Pay him a ton of money, buy him out, do whatever it takes to keep him there, because part of the Panthers' long-term success and viability depends on having Joe Brady there, making good play calls, and developing their young quarterback, Sam Darnold. And clearly with Joe Brady, Sam Darnold is way better. I mean, he needs that to always be in the right play call and always have people running open and in a good matchup is an unbelievable advantage. And so the impact of Joe Brady cannot be overstated. He's an incredible offensive coordinator who's making Sam Darnold look even better than I think he actually is. And I think Sam Darnold is way better than people realize. So he's helping elevate Sam even more than I think Sam could be, if that makes any sense. Although I still think Sam would succeed with other people, I feel even better with him being coached by Joe Brady. Real quick, let's talk about the Texans head coach, David Culley. I remember David Culley, the first time I heard his name as a potential hire for the Houston Texans, I was like, who the heck is this guy? Like, what's happening? And I remember dogging on the guy because his name was not in the conversation with any other NFL teams, and he was the passing game coordinator in Baltimore. And I remember thinking, like, well, Baltimore doesn't even throw the ball very well. Like, how is this guy getting elevated? And then last week, I watched David Culley make a really weird call in game where they chose to, someone can look it up. It was like a 3rd and 15. They got a penalty. It's just bizarre in-game decision for David Culley against Cleveland. And I'm like, I can't tell if David Culley is going to be a good coach. I look at what he's done. I look at who he is. I'm like, I don't know yet. But what I can say is the more I watch and listen to David Culley as a human being, the way he interacts with his players on the sideline, the more I listen to him and observe him, the more I like him. David Culley seems like the kind of guy I'd want to play for. I mean, I love the way he interacts with his players, with his young quarterback, Davis Mills, is getting in his head, pumping him up. That's awesome. And clearly, David Culley cares a lot about winning, about his players, about relationships. I like seeing that. And I can't tell yet if David Culley is going to be a good NFL head coach. I don't know. But I find myself more and more just rooting for him. He seems like a really likable human being. And he gave a great quote. I don't know if it's because he plans on retiring after the Houston Texans opportunity. I don't know what his plan is, but he said, I'm done being an assistant coach. He told John Harbaugh, the coach in Baltimore, when he left, he said, you're the last coach I'll ever be an assistant to. So David Culley is getting to the end of his career. I think, if he gets fired by Houston, he'd probably just retire based on that quote. And I think he's got, I got nothing to lose. I'm taking one last shot at it, going for my career, having this amazing opportunity to be an NFL head coach. And I gotta kind of admire the guy for his spirit, the way he goes about it. And even, like I said, that quote saying, I'm not going to be an assistant head coach ever again. I think that's very telling that David Culley sees this as his final opportunity to make kind of a lasting impact in the NFL. Whether it works or not, this is his last hurrah. And knowing that gives him actually an advantage to say, I got nothing to lose. I'm going balls to the wall. And I honestly, I really like that. And I had to mention, I really find myself rooting for David Culley, the Texans head coach. Okay, there are two more little final notes about this game. Number one, Carolina's defense is really good up front. This is just numbers, but it does matter because they've done it 3 weeks in a row now. Week 1, they only allowed 45 yards rushing against New York. Week 2 against New Orleans, the Carolina Panthers defense only gave up 48 yards rushing. And then week 3 here against Houston, they gave up 42 yards. So no team has run for more than 50 yards against the Carolina Panthers all year. Well, I'm curious, will the Dallas Cowboys in week 4 be the first team to get past that 50 yards rushing? I don't know. But certainly, I've been very, very impressed with the way that the Panthers front seven has played so far this year. Brian Burns, there's another guy, I'm blanking on his name right now. Just all over that defensive line, Hassan Reddick. These guys are making plays, and it's fun to see. I enjoy the Carolina Panthers defensive line and their front seven. They're making plays, and really, I know them playing against not great competition, but against weak competition, they're supposed to dominate. They're doing that, and I don't know what that means yet. We'll see how they play against a better football team, but so far so good if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. Now, note number 2. I want to give a shout out to DJ Moore, Panthers receiver. He had 8 catches for 126 yards. Dude is a stud. It's great to have Sam Darnold throwing to a weapon like him. I like Dan Arnold a lot. I like Dan Arnold actually in Arizona. Now he's their tight end in Carolina. I just feel very good about what's going on in Carolina. I don't know they're going to, I even put them on my list of teams that had no shot to win the Super Bowl this year. But I will say, they're showing progress. They look way better. They're certainly not a team that's going to be drafting in the top 10 next year. And if you're a Panthers fan, you have to feel very, very encouraged through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season.